Greetings. My name is Ahmed Adly. I'm a senior sales engineer working with Citrix Saudi Arabia. Thank you for attending and watching our today's presentation about the features and the benefits of Citrix Workspace with Nutanix. Citrix Workspace is an end-to-end integrated platform that provides secure access of all the resources and the workloads needed by the employees to accomplish and to do their work while working anywhere with any device, including tablets, PCs, laptops, in a secure way. Today, we are going to provide an overview about Citrix Workspace and why Nutanix or how Nutanix can add a lot of values while implementing Citrix Workspace and having the workloads in the on-prem data center. Let me first start with talking about the crisis happened in early 2020. Actually, talking about the COVID-19 situation, pandemic, it was a surprise for many corporates, and many corporates weren't ready for this because many of these corporates weren't or didn't establish a bring your own device or work from anywhere initiatives or strategies. So when this pandemic happens, the situation was that offices were shut down, people start to transition to work from home, and here a lot of challenges were very obvious. A lot of companies didn't have the capabilities to empower the users or to make them work from anywhere or using their personal devices. So there were a lot of challenges on how to let the employees resume working and accomplish their tasks and activities while being working from home from using their personal devices. Some companies which didn't have such strategies or didn't have user digital workspaces for them, they try to utilize the existing solutions that they might have, also all the limitations and the drawbacks that they have, like for example like the VPN. But when the working from home phase was extended, companies started to look for better solutions that can provide additional security enhancements. It can be more scalable so that it can support more business units, more business users. In addition, it can extend the business for additional third-party contractors and partners. In addition that, it can optimize the performance so that it can give the same end user experience like people getting working from home, and the delivery for additional services, applications that is to be more appropriate for the users, not only to the mandatory applications on the services like starting of the pandemic, but to extend it to provide and offer additional services and applications to and resources to the users. Actually, when this happened, or when this happens, it starts to make the people start and making the corporates start to reimagine the work and imagine how it's going to be the business later. So having this people working from home for extended periods of time and some employees working from home, it gave the corporates the idea and give them the chance to think about reimagining how it's going to be the future of work. Actually, not all the business units, not all the employees really need to work from the offices. Actually, there is a lot of work, there are a lot of business that can be done remotely. They don't have to be in the office. They don't really to work with the corporate devices. They can work with their personal devices, working from anywhere, even outside the company. So this can be the next normal, so that some of the business can be done without really coming to the office or without being on-prem. And the cloud transitioning can be the key to ensure the productivity and IT agility in this case. In the past, the situation was different. It was so simple. Actually, in the past, we used only to have a single device in our offices. In the past, I used to have a single PC with Microsoft Windows. It's a device that's being on the desk, and it's wired, connected to my office. So everything was there on this computer. Only this device, I have to work with it because it's having my applications and it's having my data and having my files, but I cannot work with any other devices. So if I want to accomplish my work, if I want to do all my work, I have to go there. I have to use this device. And this is not the current situation anymore. The current situation is totally different. Today I'm having different devices. I'm having the devices offered from my corporate. I can have the laptop or the PC I work with it. I can have as well my own personal devices. For example, I might have my MacBook, or I might have my tablet, or I might have my smartphone, and I'm supposed to be working with any of these devices. This is the current situation today. I might also have different types of applications I have to work with. In the past, I used to have only like Windows apps or web-based apps. These were all my applications, only web or Windows-based. But today the situation again is different. I might have some other applications in addition. I might have SaaS apps, or I might have mobile-based applications. For example, if I wanna have access to my email, the company needs to assure that I access my email from my tablet or my smartphone using a secure mobile email application, for example. In addition to that, the data that I'm working with can be anywhere. It might not be only on my personal device. It might be on the corporate device. It might be in the company network, or it might reside on public cloud, for example, like OneDrive for business, or it can be residing on Box or any other offering. So this is the current situation that I have. And the biggest challenge that I'm going to ask myself is, okay, I'm working now with my personal device. Is my personal device can really work like my corporate laptop or corporate PC? Can I have the same capabilities? Can I run all the applications on the top of any device I'm currently using now? Can I access the data even if it's in my office and it's not on my device, for example? And here, this is what Citrix actually is doing. Citrix can provide the same end user experience, providing the flexibility for the users to access the applications and the data from any device, and provides the users with the same end user experience while keeping the same security standards as per the company or the corporate standards and regulations. So regardless of the device that I'm using, it can be my corporate laptop or my personal laptop or my personal MacBook, I have access to Citrix Workspace. And when I have access to Citrix Workspace, it provides me with the same experience regardless of the device I'm using now. At the same time, Citrix Workspace provides access to all the resources that I need to have access to in a simple unified platform. I just access to Citrix Workspace with single sign-on. I can access to all my other resources such as applications, virtual desktops, or documents and data. Citrix Workspace is a complete platform that is composed of a lot of components, many components that are being seamlessly integrated, and they provide an end-to-end rich end-user experience. So the components that is being part of Citrix Workspace is the unified endpoint management, the content collaboration, securing SaaS and web-based applications, the delivery of virtual apps and desktops, as well as the intelligence part for organizing, guiding, and the automation of tasks for enterprise apps used by employees. Of course, Citrix Workspace provides secure access to all these resources, as well as the visibility and the analytics, and ensuring consistent end user experience. Going through the Citrix Workspace on-prem architecture and having more details about the component that we discussed in the previous slide, actually users having any device, as being shown here on the left, users might have any device, MacBook or PC or whatever the device they are having, and on the right side they need to have the access to the apps and data, and the apps and data might be residing on any cloud or any resource location. It can be on-prem, on a public cloud, or a private cloud, or a hybrid cloud. So regardless where the location of the apps and data, here Citrix Workspace components are here in this deployment to provide this access for the users and whatever the devices they are having to these apps and data. Talking first about the different components we have here, we have the Citrix Application Delivery Controller, which is the first component that we're going to talk about. This is the gateway. This is what briefly provides secure remote access for the users in order to access the apps and data. Citrix ADC provides identity management, authentication, access control, remote access, availability, inspection, segmentation, visibility, and encrypted delivery for the traffic from the end user side till it reaches securely to the apps and data inside the network. Citrix ADC is being offered as a physical appliance, or it can be a virtual appliance. And when running as a virtual appliance, there is an offering for Citrix as a virtual appliance, Citrix ADC as a virtual appliance, to run on Nutanix Acropolis hypervisor. So then we have the part of the delivery controllers for the apps and data. Coming to this part, we have the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops Controllers. Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops Controllers provides access to virtual applications and desktops, as well as providing remote PC access to the physical workstations that might reside in the office. So Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops provides centralization, hosted delivery of applications and desktops, and provides policy-based control to access these type of resources, provides peripheral controls, watermarking, and secure browser capabilities. Applications can be Windows-based apps, can be web-based applications, can be Linux apps, desktops as well. It can be Windows or Linux desktops. Other delivery controller here is about the unified endpoint management part, the part for the mobile device management, mobile application management, and secure delivery for business mobile productivity applications. Other delivery controller, which is for the share file part, share file for data sharing and synchronization. So the data, regardless it's on-prem or it's on a public cloud, it provides access to this data. Users can share and users can synchronize this data on their own device. It's providing data access and data sharing using links. It provides link expiration, information's rights management, provides encrypted email while sending this data, remote wipe for devices, as well as virtual data rooms. As in the previous slides, we would see that Citrix Workspace components actually consists of two layers. We have the management infrastructure layer, which is the controller part, and the workload part, which is the second layer. The workload part, which is about the apps and the data itself. It represents, for example, the VDI virtual machine itself, the user's data itself, the personalization files for the user, for example. So these are the two layers. And on having the Citrix Workspace as the on-prem deployment, so both layers can reside in the customer data center, both of them. So some customers prefer to offload the part of the management. So Citrix Cloud is having an offering so that you can have Citrix Cloud offering where all the management part is being hosted and being managed by Citrix Cloud. So by this way, the management infrastructure is being on Citrix Cloud, and instead of having different on-prem multiple products and having multiple product consoles on-prem, it's now being totally and centrally managed by using Citrix Cloud through a single integrated console. Through Citrix Cloud, the management can be for both on-prem data center workloads or public cloud workloads, or both of them as well. If a customer decides that they want to host the workloads or the workloads and the management layer as well in my data center, or in the data center in the company, for the sake of compliance and security reasons. So in this case, we still need to have the hardware, the computing power, the storage inside my data center in order to keep the workloads and the management layer. So it's about virtual machines, it's about the storage for these virtual machines, as well as the storage for the user's data. So let's give a very small example. If I'm having my company today is having 1,000 users, and these 1,000 users will require virtual desktops, will require VDI, for example. So 1,000 virtual desktops, which means 1,000 virtual machines for 1,000 users. So it will require computing power, it will require storage. We need to calculate the capacity, we need to calculate the IOPS, and here comes the challenge with the traditional way of providing such things from the hardware perspective. So if we are going to talk, for example, from the requirements as a hardware, so we will need CPUs, we will need memory, we will need storage capacity, and we will need storage IOPS. So we are talking about the performance as well from this side. In order to provide this on a traditional way of providing the hardware, we would find that we have some challenges. Talking first about the part of the storage, the SAN or the NAS storage, okay? First, we would find that you have two factors. You have the factor of the IOPS, the performance, and you have the factor of the storage capacity itself. So you might need to increase the capacity, but if you increase the capacity, you have to take into consideration that you might need to increase the IOPS or the performance as well. Or you might have another case that you need to increase the performance, but the capacity is more than enough. So you might end with a situation that you have a performance bottleneck here. In addition to that, there is some problems with the scalability, or having to scale up, for example, or to provide more scalability to add more users, for example. You might find yourself that you might from the storage capacity perspective, you have more storage than you need, but from the performance, no, you still need to add more desk or desk shelves in order to meet the performance requirements. In addition to that, the SAN or the SAN part, it's a different, totally separate layer than the storage network or the SAN switch or the servers and virtualization stuff, so that it needs a separate management from the other layers. Coming to the SAN switch is a different layer. It's a different layer than the SAN itself, and it's responsible to make the connectivity between the nodes, the servers, and the SAN storage. So this part, it's complex to manage and it's costly to scale. So for example, it's not a linear. So for example, I was having today 1,000 users, I want to go for 5,000 users. You can make your calculations, you can add more nodes from the computing perspective. You might need to calculate how much storage I would need to add from the performance and from the capacity. But what about the SAN switch? You need to consider how much throughput you would need from the servers and to the storage, for example, and you might need to consider how to scale this SAN switches in order to accommodate all the throughput and connectivity between the nodes and the storage. Getting to the nodes part, or the computing power, which is represented by the servers or the blades, we will need a hypervisor or a virtualization layer on the top to host the virtual machines on it. Virtualization management can take resources away, and that's why the traditional virtualization for doing things, for hosting the workspace components, might be challenging here. And here comes Nutanix. Nutanix is a 100% software-defined hyper-converged solution that can provide high performance for virtual machines. It can provide integrated virtual machines management, and it can provide as well its own Acropolis hypervisor with Nutanix. The good point here is Nutanix that it's converged everything in a single box. So we have the storage, we have the compute, we don't need to a SAN switch, just we have it everything we need, the computing, the memory, the storage, everything in a single box. And because of we have all these components together, it's providing a very good feature for the linear scalability. So for example, for today, I will need for 100 user, one node. So if it's predictable, it can be easy to scale. For example, if I wanna scale to 200 users, I will just need to add one additional node. If I wanna go to 300 users, I will need to add additional 2 nodes, for example. Comparing Nutanix hyper-converged infrastructure offering with the previous traditional hardware infrastructure, we could find that the footprint can be heavily reduced. In the legacy hardware infrastructure, and as we have seen in the previous slides, you are having different layers, you are having different components. Each one of them, it requires its own footprint in the data center. Like for example, the SAN storage, you would need like SAN controller, you would need desk shelves, you would need for the part of the networking part, you would need a SAN switch, and SAN switch with its hassle of management, as well as the computing nodes, the servers or the blades or whatsoever. So it were 3 different layers, and they need to connect to each other, and you need to maintain all of this. With Nutanix, the situation is now everything is in a single box. Now you have the computing, you have the storage, the connectivity, everything is inside a node, inside a box. And here comes the part of the footprint reduction, so that you need less power and you need less space than what was required before in the legacy or in the traditional way of hardware and storage delivery. Nutanix already comes with the Acropolis hypervisor, okay, which is free of cost, so that customers don't really need to pay for additional cost for having a hypervisor for the solution. So on having Nutanix nodes, customers can utilize the Acropolis hypervisor. And Citrix and Nutanix had a partnership. Citrix Workspace components can work on the Acropolis hypervisor, and these components like the ADC, the virtual appliance, the Citrix storefront virtual machines, the controllers for virtual apps and desktops, Studio, Director, Citrix Share File Storage Zone controllers, as well as any other Microsoft infrastructure virtual machine that's needed for the solution in order to work. In addition to these management virtual machines, the workload itself, and this is the most important thing, it can run on Acropolis hypervisor. Citrix supports the automated provisioning and centralized image management integration with Nutanix Acropolis hypervisor. Thank you for attending this part of the session.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining the session with me. My name is Hussain Almarhoon. I'm a senior system engineer at Nutanix, and today I'll be talking about Nutanix EUC with Citrix. So before I go and discuss our topic here, I would like to define what is EUC. So EUC can be deployed in three different models. First of all is the virtual desktop infrastructure, which is VDI. The other model is the desktop as a service, where you'll be able to consume your VDI user from the cloud itself. And the last part is the ability to access the file services from file sharing. So all of these different EUC's models can be accessed through various ways of access methods, whether you can use your PC, your laptop, or even your tablet or mobile phone. So prior going forward to discuss how we can integrate with Citrix, let me try to visualize how we are solving the complexity that you're facing in traditional infrastructure. On the left side, you can see the traditional infrastructure. What I mean by the traditional infrastructure, I mean that you'll have three different layers. First, you have the compute, which is the servers. And then you have the connectivity, which is the network switches or the SAN switches between the storage systems. These create different ways to complexity when you deploy the VDI and when we want to expand. Now, on the right side, it's the block or the Nutanix block, as they say. We would like to consolidate all of these components into a single block where if you want to expand, if you want to add additional users, all you need to do is just add another node in the cluster or another block in the cluster. All of these components are embedded with their own virtualization that we could offer from Nutanix, which is AHV. And every block in the system or node in the system or the cluster, it is connected to a top-of-rack switch for data communication between each node in the cluster, where everything will be abstracted in a single resource pool from memory, CPU, and storage. So what makes Nutanix the choice for VDI? First of all, we have thousands of customers running millions of users on top of Nutanix, HCI, with, of course, Citrix as their VDI broker. Another thing is that with Nutanix, with Citrix, it is also certified to run all Citrix workloads on top of Nutanix HCI platform, in addition to the hypervisor, where it can provide you with all the aspects that you're looking for to manage the infrastructure, to get the best performance, to get the upgrade from the same management console that Nutanix can provide, and also the time to deploy the infrastructure itself. So what makes deploying VDI on top of HCI, specifically on Nutanix special? First of all, is the predictable economics and also the growth. So for example, if you are having a 400 user on top of 4-node cluster, you know, in the future, if you would like to add additional 400 users, is just adding a new block of 4 nodes. Same goes if you would like to expand with another 400 users, which will give you a total of 1,200 users. You know that these 400 users can be accommodated on the 4 nodes or on the block that is already provided. So adding additional blocks will give me a predictable number of users, and each time I just want to add another node or another block. Another question that you may want to ask, would this affect the performance of the existing, or it will affect the performance of the existing users that are running on top of Nutanix HCI? The answer is no. The more nodes that you add, the linear performance that you'll receive. There is no fluctuation. You'll be able to get the same resilient performance, running different users and different apps as well on top of Nutanix. So basically, from Citrix perspective, all day-to-day activities from desktop management to application management, all can be managed through Citrix Management Console or Citrix Studio. You'll be able to see and connect to existing Nutanix cluster, and through drag down drop menu, you'll be able to see the Nutanix Acropolis there, where you can add the information about your existing Nutanix cluster and then connect, and then the day-to-day activities from provisioning the virtual machines, from designing policies of the VDI users, all can be done through Citrix Studio. So this shows how simple it is for you when you add connection resources to from existing, or let's say from traditional infrastructure, and then in the after on the right side on the Nutanix infrastructure. You can see on the left side you have multiple data stores being implemented, where on the right side with Nutanix container you have only one data store or one container that handles the resources or handles the user space on the Nutanix container. So what are the core things when you're running Citrix on top of Nutanix? First, you need to look on three main things. The first one is the Nutanix components. Essentially, Nutanix core is the basis for running Citrix on top of Nutanix. You have the AHV, which is the Nutanix hypervisor, and then you have the AOS, which is the operating system of the hyperconverged infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure for the hyperconvergence, and then the Prism, which is the management console to manage the Hci environment. The second thing is the Nutanix Essentials. So if you'd like to add automation on your environment, you can add COM, and then the ability to have file share, which I'll be talking about in the coming slide, on top of Nutanix, and then the security aspect of securing applications and also VDI users from each other using Flow. The other part, which is the Citrix integrations, where from Citrix perspective, we have different plugins that is already can be deployed easily through the Citrix software, from MCS, PVS, Power Management, Citrix Cloud, and Director, and then the certified virtual appliance that can be deployed on top of AHV as a hypervisor as well. And the last part, which is the tools that we can provide from Nutanix, which is the migration tools, which is called Move. So we can migrate workloads from existing VDI environments to the Nutanix environment through Move as well. And last but not least, which is the community that you can rely on to check what is going on in the market as well. So as mentioned, you'll have different plugins that is ready, made, and customized for AHV to be deployed for you to assign or deploy virtual desktops and virtual apps. You'll be able to have an AHV plugin for Citrix Director, where you can see the VM IOPS, VM bandwidth, and the latency for the virtual machines or the virtual machines of the users themselves that are running. And then if you'd like to connect to Citrix Cloud to for any reason, to have it integrated with Prism, all you need to do is just add the user's credentials, and then it will connect. So the other thing that I'm sure that you'll be asking about, since some of you here in an organization users have a graphic intensive requirements. Yes, we support GPUs. You can have a GPU as a pass-through or a vGPU where it is already integrated with Prism. Everything is managed through Prism, so you can assign a vGPU to each user profile. So to recap everything, how Nutanix AHV, the embedded hypervisor, can help you to build an easy, agile, and also robust VDI environment. First of all, there's no infrastructure restraints, meaning that the ability to expand is much easier with the Hci environment. The data locality in terms of performance, where each VM in the cluster will run on top of each host, and it will consume the resources on that host. And then you'll have one single data store. It will make it much simpler for you to manage and move data if required from different data stores. And last but not least is the hypervisor cost. You don't have to get hypervisor licenses if you go with Nutanix AHV. No cost. So this is basically as a recap. We covered the part of how we are integrating with Citrix and how we complement each other. Now let's talk about the underlying part of managing the HCI infrastructure. So I'm sure now we'll be having a question saying that how can I manage it? It's simple as having a prism, meaning that you'll be able to manage the whole infrastructure through our service called Prism. Prism basically will provide you with a holistic view about your environment, from the hypervisor summary, from the storage summary, the VM summary, the hardware summary, the IOPS, the health of the system. You can see the performance metrics of each virtual machine that you have, the provisioning. Everything can be done through Prism itself. You'll be able to see the alerts. You'll be able to manage the hardware as well that is connected on your cluster from different components, from the node layer, from the block layer, and also from the disk layer as well. Not only to that extent, even you can check the network part for the network connectivity from the nodes or the blocks to the top of rack switches. This is how simple it is for you to give a full stack of management analytics. This is one part. The other part from Prism, you'll be able to do the lifecycle management with one click, hardware and software upgrades, also hypervisor upgrades, all included with only one console to manage. So we covered the management part. Let's talk about the other thing which is necessary for you to have in every VDI environment, which is the NAS. So Nutanix offers a software-defined scale-out file storage solution called Files. Files is basically deployed on top of Nutanix cluster. You don't have to have another silo for NAS. So what are the main use cases for files? There are three different main cases. First, you can use it as a general NAS storage or a departmental and home shares. You can use it for a persona, VDI persona storage. So you can use it as a redirected folders and profile users. And also from Citrix perspective, you can use it for app layering, profile management, and provisioning services, and also as a file share for the Citrix file share services as well. What are the benefits of running files on top of Nutanix? First of all, you can have mixed deployments. So you can run files on the same cluster that's running the user VMs. You don't have to go and get another NAS appliance. It's embedded. And the other thing is the simplicity. All of the files components, from provisioning the file server itself, from creating the file shares, can be done through Prism itself. And last part is that you'll be able to get the maximum utilization of your existing infrastructure. So you don't have to go get another file storage for you to assign the file requirements. The great thing about files is that it's not only creating shares for users. You can use it for NFS shares if you'd like to use it for different applications as well. This is basically from files perspective. Now, another important part with files that you wouldn't be able to see on different NAS solution is the file analytics. With file analytics, you'll be able to check three different things. First, it can show you the data about data, meaning that you'll be able to see the capacity fluctuating. You'll be able to see the file distribution by type. You'll be able to see the file distribution by size. The other thing, you can have audit trails. So you can search and filter who accessed which file and who accessed which share as well, to give you a more granular view about what's going on your environment. And last part, it can show you the anomaly detection. What does it mean is that you'll be able to see who tried to access the files that he doesn't have permission to. So in the slide here, you can see the permission denial. So it can show you the last 7 days of who had permission denials and what is the count of the permission denials. Not only this, you'll be able to see who tried to write on the file and who closed the file and who opened the file and also who deleted the file. So it gives you a full visibility in terms of the files of what's going on your NAS solution that is deployed via files in Nutanix. So we covered the file share part and how we can deploy it without the need of adding another layer of management on your infrastructure, all bundled on the same solution or can be deployed on the same solution. Now let's talk about a security perspective and how to protect your user VMs from each other if you would like to segment it. So with Flow, which is the microsegmentation service in Nutanix, you'll be able to segregate different virtual machines from each other. And traditionally, in the traditional infrastructure, you have a DC firewall, which protects you north to south. With microsegmentation, you'll be having the protection from east to west, meaning that you can segregate workloads from each other using microsegmentation without the need of going and then recreating any policies on the data center firewall. So what are the main use cases for Flow here? First, you have application segmentation, where you'll be able to segment your applications based on whether it's production, whether it's on database, whether it's on a web server. You can segment it. You can create policies in between where you can allow certain port to be open. Second, you can do DMZ on demand, meaning that I can totally isolate multiple environments, not only two, multiple environments from each other without them seeing each other, even though they are in the same subnet. This is another use case. Third use case is the VDI security. Let's say if you have user VMs or VDI VMs on the same cluster that you are running application VMs, you can segregate those VMs from each other. Let's say if you have different VDI users that you want to segregate from each other, you can also apply a policy to segregate different VDI users on the same platform. And last part is the compliance. So Flow with VDI, how can we help you secure your environment here? So you can have different VDI pools. You can have a VDI pool of human resources. In this example, you have a VDI users or VDI pool for different users, management, for example, and you can segregate them totally. And you can give them ability to access certain applications and a certain other virtual machines as well. So what are the main concepts here? First of all, you can secure applications and the desktops that needs to access this application. It is native microsegmentation, meaning that it is enabled, it's the feature enabled, it's there. You don't have to do any planning prior deploying the microsegmentation in Nutanix. It is easily can be enabled through Prism Central. Everything is automated, meaning that if you are deploying new virtual machines, for example, new VMs, new user VMs, these VMs, you can assign them automatic policies where every VM will be protected via its policy. And then if you would like to do service chaining, what do you mean by service chaining? Meaning that if you would like to use an existing firewall and you want to make sure that the data traffic going from the VM to the other VM needs to bypass or need to pass by the firewall, you can do this as well. And last part is the network visualization. Basically, you'll be able to see or visualize the data traffic between each virtual machine and the other virtual machine that you have. So to recap, why Citrix and Nutanix are better together. First, both are leaders in the EUC and HCI market. The solution is co-developed. You saw that we have different plugins, different appliances can be deployed directly on Nutanix. You have the pay-as-you-grow model. let's say if you want to start with 400 users, you know that the additional 400 users will take additional nodes, and you know the number of nodes. You'll have the best-in-class user experience from both companies. You have the ability to deploy on-prem and also on hybrid perspective. And the great thing about running the VDI on HCI, it requires you hours, not weeks. This is how simple it is for you to deploy VDI on Nutanix with Citrix. And last part, what makes Nutanix leading the market is that the flexibility of choice, meaning that you could run different hypervisors for your based on your requirement, or you can choose different appliance models from different hardware vendors as well. And last but not least, you can choose the clouds that you want to run your workloads as well. So thank you all for joining. I would like to thank you all for joining this session. I hope that I was able to grasp your attention in other components. Thank you.